So tell us a little bit about your musical education and background, and then go on to your SLP. You talked a little bit about it, but talk more about your education and background for both.
Okay. So I'll start high school, Eric, because that's kind of where I got the bug. And we all have that moment. And most of us remember what that moment was like. Oh, that was the day I went, oh, I have to do that. And mine started in high school. I think I was a freshman. They put on Anything Goes as part of the musical theater class. And I remember watching it. And it was probably the first time I had seen a musical live. It was the first live musical I saw. So I remember that moment of going, I have to do that. I just have to figure out how to do that. So at that point, I joined every chorus class I could sign up for. I did beginning theater and I worked my way through high school and finally into those musical theater productions. And that was kind of the beginning of it. I went to Berry College in Rome, Georgia, which is in the mountains up there. It's really small private college, but beautiful, beautiful. And I went in, believe it or not, as a microbiology major. So I went in as a microbiology major and came out a music major pretty quickly as I went to go just pursue voice lessons. I just wanted to get voice lessons. And when I went to sing for the head of the department, I'll never forget, he just put his head down on the piano. And I thought, was I that bad? And he looked up and went, why didn't you audition? So he fills out this slip of paper and hands it to me and says, take this to the registrar. Little did I know he had added a major. By the end of the year, I was only a music major. So did that. And after I got out of undergrad, I kind of went, what do I do now? So that's when I decided to go and get my master's degree. So I went to Georgia State University and got a master's of music performance there in voice. At the same time, I also auditioned for the Atlanta Opera. So I was picked up pretty young with the Atlanta Opera and started my career there during grad school. So did that for years and it really sustained me. I also taught. I had, of course, a studio pretty quickly after my undergrad, and that's when I started Meredith Studios. So Meredith Studios started, small, and then eventually kind of rolled in and out of the years, of larger to smaller caseloads. And then, like I said, 2008 hit, and that's when I had to kind of reevaluate. But during my time as a professional singer, I did tour with a musical theater production. I did opera a lot of the time. They did 4 operas a year, and we rehearsed a lot. When you're doing that heavy classical repertoire, you need a lot of rehearsal to make it really good. And our conductor at the time was Walter Huff, who's now at the Indiana University, the conservatory there, and he is teaching up there, but he's been a wonderful resource and I really miss him here in Atlanta. But he was such a wonderful person to work with and under at the Atlanta Opera, and so I stuck around because I really enjoyed working with him. But of course, through that association, there was a lot of gigging around town. I've been in every major house in and around Atlanta, and it's been a wonderful experience to have all of that under your belt and to wear all those beautiful costumes and all those amazing wigs and all the makeup. And it makes it really fun to do, especially when you're younger. So when you're not attached and don't have kids running around, it makes it a lot easier to be at rehearsals every night of the week and have those shows. And so, yeah, when 2008 hit at that point, then that's when I had to add a career, and that's when I chose to add the SLP.
Right.
So,
and then
I don't know. Let's see what happened at that point. So after I got my communication sciences and disorders master's degree, I came home and I did a brief internship at a Piedmont hospital right downtown. So at that point, I kind of had a nice, well-rounded experience. I had started in the rehab facility, I had experienced the hospital, and then I went into pediatric care at a private clinic. And I did that for a couple of years, just finishing out my clinicals. And then I got a wild hair and decided to go be a traveling speech therapist. Which if you didn't know you could do that, you can, and it's great. So I traveled around in South Carolina and Georgia. I went down to Savannah for a while, and then I went to South Carolina, and I worked there in pediatric outpatient. I worked in acute care. I did work in a acute rehab facility in northern Georgia at one point. So I got a really nice, well-rounded experience. And if you don't know what an SLP does, let's just talk about what does an SLP do. An SLP is a speech language pathologist, but don't let the name fool you, because we actually cover a lot of medical conditions. We can cover anything from a developmental delay to a feeding disorder, to vocal disorders, to a stutter, to a kid that can't say his R's, to stroke patients and their recovery. We also can handle, functional issues related to apraxia, which is, a neurological disorder, or to dysarthria, where there's, an injury. We can deal with some of those conditions that you end up with, like Parkinson's disease or multiple sclerosis, those things that are degenerative in nature. And you're going to need that speech therapist to help you continue to communicate, because what is important? What is life if you can't communicate with your family, right? So no matter what's going on in your world, you have to communicate in some way, shape, or form. And it's one thing that, a lot of parents get upset if their child isn't performing well a particular day. And I'm like, listen, if you went to the dentist or you went and had surgery, the very first thing they ask you to do when you wake up is what? How are you feeling? They ask you to talk. So it's a really important skill set, and it's a medical profession that covers all of that. And it's a really wide breadth of need, but you can specialize, and, SLPs have all of these different specialties within. So we can continue to help people be functional in that way. And that includes our singers and our professional vocalists like you and me. We talk all day, we sing all day, and we need to take care of ourselves and be taken care of when that time comes, if we should need it, knock on wood.
Right.
So that's what an SLP does. So don't let that speech therapist moniker fool you. We cover a lot of stuff.
And I remember when I was exploring what path I might go if I become an SLP was, really for me, the two things that I would have loved to have done was accent reduction, right?
Yep.
Or
accent reduction is one.
being a singer specialist as well.
Yep.
Those were the two things that I really was kind of obviously passionate about as a singer.
Yeah.
So those are two very prestigious careers within the speech.
Right. There's specialties within. And, there was actually a company here in Atlanta, and I'm trying to remember the name of it. But they actually specialized in teaching executives, and their whole staff was people who had performance experience and SLP. So their whole thing was preparing executives for making speeches and being on media and helping them move through something that would, for any of us, be intimidating and challenging. I just can't even imagine. Like here you are, Joe CEO, and he's used to being in his office looking over ledger sheets. And now all of a sudden he has to get up on CNN and make a statement for whatever reason. So I can imagine that those types of tasks can become really overwhelming. So you need somebody who can bring those two arts together. And that's something that is really was one of the things that inspired me, because I thought, okay, well, I have this performance skill set. So can I use it to help somebody clinically as well? So yeah, there's some really great specialties within the SLP faction. So
yeah. Would that be something you might explore also at some point?
I would love to. I think that it would be really fun to explore some of the other specialties within. I haven't worked with adults in a little while. I've been working primarily with babies. And I really love that, because I really enjoy being able to teach the parent and work with the child. And that kind of is something that I, really find rewarding within this career path. At the same time, I've also enjoyed and have worked with some of the elderly after strokes or recovery of, injury, brain injuries, things like that. And so I haven't quite gotten back to the performance piece that can go with the SLP or the accent modification. However, I will tell you that as a singer, we have highly developed ears. And so when I hear something, I put a different IPA symbol on it than maybe another SLP would. So I've got this big, an international phonetic alphabet in my head that encompasses Russian and, French and Italian and German. And so I have this a little bit different set when I'm listening. My ears are a little bit more honed for some of those very fine differences. So articulation often is something that I'm tend to be pretty good at, because I can tell someone exactly how they need to move and which way and what's going wrong in there. And, just because my ears are honed a little bit differently.